Okay, we're going to be opening up the Republican playbook tonight. Today, House Democrats, they went behind closed doors, circled the wagons on a public option. They're all about it. The only hope that the House Republicans, I think, that they've got right now, the only hope they've got is for the Blue Dogs to come in and screw this deal up. Now, tonight, Republican Congressman Bustani, he's a doctor. He's going to be giving the Republican response, and he's going to be talking about the doctor-patient relationship. What is this, the Dr. Phil show? Cut me some slack. We need some premiums lowered. We need some detail. Joining me now to give the pre-buttal to the president's address is Congressman Brian Bilbray of California. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight. What do you bet. What do the Republicans want to hear from President Obama tonight?
Well, I think first thing that I've heard in my town hall meetings was the bottom line of before you start making promises, how are you going to pay for it? Where's the money going to come from? And if waste, fraud, and abuse can produce 3/4 of the money, then why aren't we talking about doing that first to sort of prove to America that we can be trusted with this type of effort?
Okay, Congressman, now the president has said that he's in favor of repealing the Bush tax cuts. I assume that wouldn't fly with you or the rest of the Republicans, correct?
Well, I think then do that up front, and let's talk about that. But that's not what I heard him say. I kept hearing him say there was so much fraud, waste, and abuse, that there was so much abuse of the system that we could produce huge amounts of money. The question that everybody has is, well, why haven't we done that first? Sort of develop the credibility. And I think that's one of the things that everybody's missing here. There's a real lack of credibility with Washington when you talk to the average citizen out in America. And this isn't Democrat or Republican. This is a general issue. So earn some credibility by doing the heavy lifting, the tough stuff, and take on our buddies who are ripping off the system first, and then talk about promising more services for what you can't afford.
Well, let me ask you this. The president tonight is going to say that it is against the law for insurance companies to deny people coverage from a pre-existing condition. Now, that's kind of a heavy lift, I would say. Would you go along with that?
I think it is a heavy lift, but I think there's a possibility he would do that. But he's also got to address that other big elephant in the room, and that is the tort issue. That one thing, and those of us in California, which is actually a legislature controlled by the Democratic Party, has known that tort reform was important for health care.
All right, I gotta. Do we have some wiggle room here? Would you give in to the pre-existing condition if the president were to do something about tort reform? How many House Republicans do you think that would bring over?
I think it would be a huge jump if he's brave enough to take on the trial lawyers. But the problem is they're not even talking about that. And those of us in California who are actually trying to save a system back there understands that tort reform is absolutely essential cost reduction part that is not providing health care.
And what about telling insurance companies that they can't drop people when they get sick? What about that? Would you go along with that?
I think that is one of the things we need to continue to do. In fact, I think that the other issue is stop this concept that employment
continue to drop people? Right now, insurance companies are dropping people after they get sick. You don't want to do that, do you?
They don't drop. They shouldn't be able to drop them if they're insured at the time it came down. Now, I think that what we got to talk about is why does the federal government subsidize or basically give tax benefits for big labor and big business for their employees, but the individual doesn't get the same tax benefit? We should give this tax benefit across the board to every American, regardless of where they're employed. And I think we can agree on that. That's one of those things that we ought to be talking about first before we start talking about raising taxes.
And finally, Congressman Bilbray, you really need the Blue Dog Democrats to screw this thing up to give President Obama failure. That's really where you're at, right?
No, the fail on this one is the president has to, he's going to fail if he doesn't explain how he's going to pay for it. And it's not going to be promises of great savings and great revenue that is not aren't before you. You wouldn't buy a product for your grandchildren you couldn't afford, or for them not to be able to afford. And I think that's what it's really coming down to. Where is the money going to come from to keep these promises before we make the promises?
And, well, I think he's going to try later on say, let's repeal the Bush tax cuts. Congressman, great to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Next up, the president's got about more than